Have you always wanted to learn the secret of making award-winning jams and jellies in your homestead kitchen? Come along today and we'll show you how. Welcome to this episode of the Roaming Homesteaders. Today we're going to show you how to make award-winning jams and jellies on your homestead. Today we're going to make a mango raspberry jam, and I've made this before, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it was a pretty good recipe. We really enjoyed it. We made a bunch of it and we are now out of it. So we're going to make some mango raspberry jam, and we're going to go ahead and show you how we're doing that. One of the first steps in this process is I use oranges in every single one of my jams, and I'll show you why. You know, the main reason that we do that is because I don't like using powdered pectin. You know, some people will use powdered pectin, and I'm not discouraging you from doing that. Powdered pectin is actually very useful. Some of you might be familiar with the Sure-Gel brand. Comes in packs at Walmart and other places, but Sure-Gel is a good brand if you're going to use powdered pectin. There's some other brands. There's liquid pectin. I certainly, you need pectin to get a proper set with any jam that you're making. But the way I do it is something that I learned a long time ago from a woman in Concord, California, who was a jam maker there. And that was to make my own pectin. And there's 2 ways you can do that. You can do that from apples. You can make apple pectin, or something that I really enjoyed using is oranges. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to show you how I do that. So first step is we're going to go ahead and cut some oranges here in half. And there's two ways you can do this. You can go ahead and just straight up juice them, which I'm going to show you how to do this here right now. Is just you're going to straight up juice them, and we'll use the juice in our jam to add a little bit of orangey flavor. Then I'll show you what we're going to do next. So we're going to go ahead and juice these oranges. Put the other one up here. And you know, these are organic oranges that I got from our local Sprouts store. So you wash off the outside because theoretically they're not treated with any wax or any chemicals or anything like that. They're not gassed to ripen them up. They're just regular old navel organic oranges. And you get all the juice out of them. They should look like that on the inside when you're done. And I've got 3 oranges here. We're going to go ahead and use all 3. You know, looks like the classic kindergarten snack. You slice your oranges up, put them in here, get them juiced up, get all the good juice out. This is just a little OXO jobby that I got from Target or Walmart or something. It's just a standard hand juicer. Cut your orange in half, you stick it upside down, and you just kind of press it against the ridges and twist it, and you get your juice to come in there just like that. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and set our juice aside. That's almost a cup. But what we want to do is the next thing we're going to do here, we're going to take a spoon, just a standard old spoon. We're going to go ahead and just scrape out that orange flesh that we just juiced. Makes it a little more difficult if you juice them first, but you can use your spoon and just scrape it out. So here's our oranges. They're nice and clean on the outside, and on the inside they're nice and clean as well. We got this great pith. We're going to go ahead and chop some of this up, and we're going to turn it into our pectin, really. Sorry, I'm gonna make some space here. We'll scoot this over. Now, something that I'll do is I will go ahead and use my grater just to get this peel reduced. We're going to use all of this, but so the next thing you're going to want to do is to chop up these peels very finely. And the real key here is just to dice and dice and dice really finely. Now, you want to get that nice thick white part. So we've already gotten the zest of this orange off the actual peel, and we're going to chop this up. Now, the way I'm doing this is different from marmalade because I'm not going to keep the peels, you know, chunked up like this. I'm actually going to use an immersion blender, and we're going to mix this in. So you're going to get all that great pectin, which is mixed in there. Most of this white is what has most of the pectin. So when we go ahead and dice this up and we mix it in, it'll be just like mixing in the main source of the pectin into the jam. What we have here is we have approximately 5 pounds of chopped up mangoes. I actually got this from Costco. It's just a 5-pound bag of frozen mangoes. You can use fresh ones too if you want to cut the fruit up. I've not found a big difference in the quality of the flash frozen stuff from the big box stores. I wouldn't recommend Walmart. I don't know how long those have been frozen, but if you get the seasonal stuff from Costco, you get really nice fresh fruit, usually from Mexico or one of these other places. So there's a 5-pound bag of mangoes. This was 2 pounds of fresh, well, these are frozen raspberries as well, but flash frozen. Again, these flash frozen processes that you get these days can get you really good fruit. It's, you know, when they freeze it really quickly, like this one's still got a little raspberry core in it, but you get some really good fruit. And for jam making purposes, you're going to boil it down anyway. You know, like I'll go ahead and try this. That's a really good tasting raspberry, and you get pretty cheap fruit. I mean, if you're going to buy this super fresh, you would probably get maybe a little fresher flavor, but not too much. And you're going to boil this down. So I'm going to go ahead and get this going. This is so fresh, it's got leaves in it. So little raspberry leaves. So what you're going to go ahead and do is you're going to go ahead and mix this together. Again, the mangoes and the raspberries. 5 pounds of mangoes, 2 pounds of raspberries. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take that zest, your lemon zest, or not lemon zest, this is orange zest, and you're just going to throw that in there. So that's from 3 oranges. Orange zest. You can use lemon zest or any type of citrus that you want, really, if you just, you know, the flavor that's going to go in. And you go ahead and mix that together. And mangoes have a nice amount of pectin to begin with. But you're going to throw that in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put in, let's say about half. I'm going to say we're going to use about half of our orange peels. Now, these are mostly pith. And there's a reason I'm going to use half right now. That might seem like a lot, and you might, if you haven't made marmalade before, you'll probably look at that and be like, ew, orange peels. You throw those away. Usually, people don't use orange peels for things. Well, orange peels are very versatile. And again, these have lots of pectin in them, so we're going to use these as a pectin source. Now, don't add too much. You're going to add sort of an orangey flavor to your oh, sorry, gonna get the end there. You don't want to add too much of an orange flavor, but when you're talking about juice and whatnot, it comes out in the wash. You won't be able to taste it later. All right, so what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna go ahead and pour our fresh squeezed juice that we got out of here Oh, I gotta get some of these. There's some seeds in here I'm gonna get out real quick, so we'll go ahead and go over the sink, pop those out so you guys don't have to waste time watching me do that. And then we're just gonna throw our juice in there. Now, you're adding this sort of acidic citrus juice instead of lemon juice to get the acid balance that you're making. So that's about a cup, maybe a little more of orange juice. And then we've got about 1.5 peels, and then our mangoes, and our raspberries. And you're just gonna mix that together. Then, the next step is we're gonna get our handy dandy immersion blender out. This is a great model. This is a Braun. This is our immersion blender. You know, this is a Braun immersion blender, and we just love this thing. It does so much, and it is so versatile. I just have to find somewhere to plug it in. So, we go ahead and take our immersion blender, hit the button, we're gonna blend all this up. Basically, what you're doing here is you're making a smoothie. You know, that's how you start this. You make a smoothie, you blend all the fruit together, and you just make a smoothie, and that's what it looks like. Okay, so again, we've put in 5 pounds of mangoes, 2 pounds of raspberries, about all the zest of 3 oranges, all the juice of 3 oranges, and then about chopped up half the peels of 3 oranges. So 1.5 peels. The next step is we're gonna go ahead and add the sugar. And I've pre-measured 7 cups of sugar here. So we're gonna go ahead and put this in and start mixing. Now, a lot of people think that, you know, you don't put the sugar in until you've been boiling a while. One of my secrets is I'm not actually depending on that chemical reaction in the pectin packet, you know, where you cook it on high and boil it for a while, and then, you know, you do that. What I do is I mix everything together straight up. Everything goes in the same pot right away, and then we're actually going to boil this. And rather than relying on the chemical reaction, I'm going to bring this up to almost a candy temperature. And that candying temperature that you reach, I think it's like 225 degrees. And you really have to cook it for, you know, a good amount of time to get it up to that high temperature. That's what's going to cause you to have a solid set. Not so much the chemical reaction of the pectin and the sugar, but the getting it up to that candying temperature. And what you'll see here is this is already starting to turn a clearer color. Yeah, we've got a lot of the fruit set in there already, but what you're going to see is you're going to get this different color coming in. Still have a couple chunks of mango here floating around. There's a piece of mango. Let me try that, see how it tastes. It's not important to taste your jam before you make it, but if you do, it's going to give you a good indication of the flavor. And I'll tell you, that tastes good. That's a nice fresh piece of mango. Yeah, so you see this sort of dark striping here? The sugar, when you put sugar into a jam, it tends to clarify it. You get a nice brighter color. Now, I still haven't put the heat on. The heat has been off this whole time, so we're going to go ahead and turn the heat on this. And we're just going to start heating this up, because now I need to cook this down until it's a thicker consistency. And we can start taking some of the temperature readings that we're going to need. Get some of these chunks of mango still that I missed with the immersion blender. Yeah, so that's nice and sweet. That's going to make a delicious jam. While we're waiting for that jam to heat up. This was still pretty cold. We're going to go ahead and do a couple of things with our jars so that you can start seeing how that works. While I've been doing all of that, I've been steaming my jars. So what I have here is I have my water bath canner, and I've been steaming a variety of jars in here. Not just steaming, but boiling them really for about a half an hour. And now that those have been sterilized, I can go ahead and pull them out. I'm going to go ahead and line them up so we can use them here. Now, I use a variety of jars. We have some ball jars, Kerr jars, and some unknown jars. I think we have some Anchor Hocking jars and a couple other things in here, but I just kind of find the jars that are available and go ahead and sterilize them. And then I set them out here on my fresh, clean dish towel. One of these episodes I'm going to show you how I make dish towels. That's right, I make dish towels. I have a set that I'm going to be weaving here soon. We'll do an episode on my weaving. This is not one of the towels I made. This is just a dish towel, general dish towel. I think we got it at Target or something. But anyway, so point is, we use any jars that you have available. And I'll show you one thing that I do. If you like a jar that you run across, a lot of people say that you shouldn't do this. I don't always agree with this, but I'll show you what I do. If you run across a jar that you like from somewhere else, let's say you bought it in a fancy jam at the store and it came from France and you thought it was really cool, that's an Anchor Hocking jam. This is an Anchor Hocking jar. That's something you can buy. But let me show you this one. This one is really neat. This is just a neat little jar that I got from, I think, Santa Cruz Jams or something like that. Just a nice little square jar. And I said to myself, you know, I'd really like to reuse that. So the secret to reusing commercial jars is that you have to find out to see if the lid is still compatible, to make sure that it will give you a good seal if you're going to end up using it in, you know, a different context. If I can find my little magnetic, yeah, there it is, my lid lifter. So what I've done here, boy, that's hot. I'm gonna dig around here in my little, there it is. Dig around in my little hot water bath. So the key to these, yeah, this is Santa Cruz Organics. The key to these is to take a look and make sure that this waxy seal in here looks good. And if you can reheat it in water so that it sort of flows back out a little, it gets soft again, and you're going to get a good seal on that when you screw it back down, you can reuse these sort of jars, and you can get all sorts of cool specialty jars like this. So I went ahead and put my jars there. They're now sterilized. And then I have my pot full of lids that I'm going to start boiling so I can sterilize those. And I'll go ahead and get back over here to the jam so you can see what's going on there. We've got this on high, and we're going to be stirring it. And one of the tricks of using this method is you have to stay on top of this. So I may be stirring this for the next hour. And a lot of people say, oh, that's so much work. I'll tell you, I get much better results this way. And I can tell you, you know, when you get a good set off of this, and you don't have to use as much powdered pectin, and your jam just tastes better without, you know, the heavy pectin flavor. It's subtle, but, you know, it can be there sometimes. So I'm just sort of skimming out the big chunks of fruit that are floating to the top. Now you'll notice that there's these stripes, these dark stripes here. That's with the fluid in here heating up. You can see it's starting to bubble around the edges. As this gets hot, it will change colors. So this goes from that sort of creamy fruit smoothie color, and it's actually going to look a lot more like syrup or jam here the hotter this gets. We're just going to keep stirring on that. But first, I must get my thermometer ready. This is a digital thermometer. It's a CDN thermometer. Let me show you what this looks like. It's pretty basic. It's like a meat type thermometer. You can use it for candying as long as it has the right temperature. And we're going to try to get this up to about 225. So right now, we're only at about, holy cow, that's a lot hotter than I thought we were. 185 degrees. Not, that doesn't matter. Getting up to the temperature is not what works. It's going to be boiling that down. So if you can get up to that high temperature and then boil it down so that it starts bubbling, like splatter bubbling. Again, you got to be careful because it might start foaming at those temperatures, but it's also going to be chemically changing that with that reaction once it gets that hot. Effectively, we're toying between turning this into candy and jam. We've gone ahead and cooked this about 20 minutes on maximum temperature. You may have seen me add a couple of tablespoons of butter in there. That's meant to cut down the surface tension so that the bubbles that are bursting don't splatter as much as they would otherwise. It looks like this is sputtering a lot, and it is certainly throwing off some splatters all over my kitchen. I'm going to have to clean this jam up all over the place. What the result is I've done my plate test. If you can see here, this jam is not moving. It is definitely gelling. So you can cook this a little more. Check the temperature, see where we're at. Temperature 200, 204, 208, 210, 212, 213. You know, when you start seeing about 218, 220, 215, 216, 217. When you start saying about 220, that's when you know you're done. If I were to try to set this right now, it would end up being like applesauce. I mean, you can see that it's sort of sticky, and that the plate test actually shows me that it's pretty good, I guess. But really, I want to hit that 220 mark. When I start seeing 220 degrees, that's when I'll be convinced that I'll actually get a good set instead of just, I mean, this looks like jam. I mean, this will probably set fine. And, you know, people tell me, oh, don't cook it any longer than that or you're going to get a rock hard set and it won't be good. But, you know, when I make strawberry jam and I see a set like this, I try to go a little more. And again, there's no added pectin in this. I'm just going off the pectin that's in the orange peels, and boy, I'll tell you, that tastes really good. All right, check the temperature again here. Got to keep going. 196, 204, 211, 215, 215. Got to be careful where I put my hand so I don't get splattered on. 216, 217. I'm getting there. Woo! Boy, this kitchen's getting messy. Hang on. Do one more test here. Oh yeah, look at that. That's my latest jam test right there. Yep, we're gonna call it. Bam! I have a secret ingredient that I'm gonna go ahead and add. Adds a little bit of special flavor. Don't tell anyone. It's my secret ingredient. So we're gonna go ahead and put in, maybe 2 ounces of this. 1, 2. So that's 2 ounces of raspberry liqueur. And that is extra liquid in here. So we're gonna let this simmer maybe 2 more minutes, just to boil off that extra liquid that I just put in. You want the flavor, but not the alcohol. See how that's not as sticky? If we do the plate test again, yeah, it actually moves a little bit now, so I'm gonna have to boil that off. I've literally been stirring this for like a half hour. You just call it. What do you think?
Oh, so good.
All right, so we went ahead and called this jam. You can see that it's dropping from the spoon in big chunks, and then that last little bit just barely hangs onto the spoon, and that's a nice thick goop. So I cook my jam down. A lot of people say, oh, use the pectin method and you'll cook it down and it'll be brighter colors and brighter flavors. I don't find that to be true. I think if you cook it down, you get that rich caramelized type flavor. It ends up being a better jam in my opinion. So, and we'll go ahead and show you the plate test again. My wife and I have been licking this off the plate, but you can see that jams up, that gels very well. Once you put it on the cold plate and it sticks to the plate, that's how you know you're gonna have a good set. So we'll go ahead and get ready and start canning this up. It's important when you're doing this to get this going pretty quickly, because if you have a heavy set type of situation, this will start setting up in your pot. So I just go ahead and take a jar like this, and I just drip fill them with a coffee cup right in there, and you fill them within 1 inch of the top. I'm sorry, within 1/4 inch of the top. Just like that. And if I think it's a little over full, like I think this one is, I'll just take my spoon, gently lift a bit out. Uh-oh, hang on. Just realized my lids were boiling in the back here and it was causing the jam to keep cooking. So I went ahead and moved my lids out of the way. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and keep filling these up. To finish capping these jars off, I'm going to go ahead and get those lids cleaned, or those rims cleaned. Just going to go back in here. Just going to gently wipe, make sure there's no sticky jam on these rim edges. Want to make them nice and clean so that they'll seal well. I just take a paper towel with a little bit of clean water. Just clean those rims. Wow, those are hot. You can use, if you're very careful and you don't get any in your jam, you can use sort of a vinegar wipe. But I don't bother with that. I just use a wet paper towel. All right, so I think we have it. So we're going to go ahead and get our lids over here. Get our pot out of the way. Get our boiled lids. We're going to use our, and again, I just take a look at this one to make sure it looks good. The seal seems to have puffed out. We're going to go ahead and screw that one on just like that. And then we have a special, what do we got here? Here's my anchor hocking lid. Well, I'm not going to worry about that yet. So I'm using mostly ball lids here. Some people say you shouldn't use different lids with different jars, but the Kerr, K-E-R-R, and Ball, B-A-L-L, are pretty much interchangeable. So that's all I'm doing here, is just putting on the ball lids. Putting on the Kerr lids. Getting them all tightened down. You don't have to wrench these down, just put them on and then tighten them finger tight. You gotta make sure you only have one. Yeah, I only have one. Get those jams in there. Woo! Love it. All right, here's my anchor hocking lid. These anchor hocking jars are cool because they're gold and they subconsciously tell the judges at these things that your jam is gold medal worthy. So just a little trick there to get them to recognize the ribbon they should give you at the fair. All right, so, oh, that one's yucko. Wash that one off. Woo! All right, so I got my jam ready. I'm ready to do this. Next step, take you over to the pot. This step's really easy. You're just gonna get in here, take all your jam, and you're just gonna pop it into the boiling water pot. This is a water bath canner, it's not a pressure canner. The key to water bath canning is to make sure that your jars are covered. And I filled this up earlier. I had the jars in here empty, but there was still, about an inch of clearance from the empty jars. And now with the full jars, theoretically, I'm going to displace all that water and it will be well above the lids. That's the key when you're doing water bath canning. You have the lid screwed on tight. and water cannot get in. And you're going to have that water above the lids, maybe an inch. And what I've gone and done here is I already tried this earlier, so I know they fit. I just got to make sure I get them back in there. In one piece. I know they fit. I just got to squeeze them back down in the pot. This is the last one. So as you can see, well, hopefully you can see that. Those lids are pretty good. That's a good level right there, about an inch above. And go ahead and cap that. Make sure that's on high. We're going to go ahead and do that for 10 minutes. I went ahead and processed this for 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the water bath canner. I'm going to pull these jars right out. So it's not going to hurt them if you don't, but it's best to get them right out right away so that they can go ahead and calm down and cool down. I just pull these right out here. Remember to be very careful. This is boiling water and you don't want to get burned. The steam can be bad enough sometimes. You open up and just let it air out a bit. Then you can go ahead and stick your arm in here without worrying too much about getting scalded. And just pull these out, line them up in a row. They won't be boiling inside like you would if you had a pressure canner, but trust me, they're very hot. You're going to go ahead, just lay them out in a nice row. And we'll admire our work here in a second. Yeah, that one just popped. You can hear the lids coming down. Okay, so I don't mess with this just as a general practice. I wait until it cools down to dump it. That way I won't risk accidentally dumping boiling water all over myself. That's sort of a safety tip. So I just park that on the back burner, make sure everything's shut off, and then I'll come in here and I'll just gently wipe, just dab the extra hot water off the lids, just to help cool it down and dry it off a little bit first. Yeah, they look pretty good. So if you want to cool these down a little slower, you can throw a towel on top. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to let them deal with the ambient temperature here in the room. Yeah, so that's what we got. Here's our delicious looking batch of jam. So this is a very good sign. This is our jam pot after we're done. And you can see if you have this sort of gunk, which is just literally goo all over the side, jammed up. You look down in here and you have this nice jam. Look at that. That's just delicious. And we'll go ahead and you can just see that's just delicious. So that's a great sign when you have jam like that. That's how you know everything's going to be great. So that process took about 2 hours, and we made a batch of jam, 12 jars. So these are really hot still, so I'm going to be careful. But you can see that we have some beautiful looking jam here. It's a nice sort of red raspberry color with just a tinge of that mango, and it is delicious. I had a nice buttered piece of toast just slathered with it. My wife and kids tried it. Kids, you know, they don't always like things that are a little bit tart, or I think the jam was still warm, so they were kind of turning their noses up at it there. But Wendy and I agree, this is another batch of award-winning jam. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed a lot of the fast forwards in this one. I know it's a tedious process. I mean, just standing there and stirring for 35 minutes can be pretty tedious, and having jam splatter all over the place, but I'm telling you, it is well worth the effort if you can learn how to finally do that, to be able to get this, and it's just amazing, and it's especially amazing when people like it. So anyway, this just goes to show you that you can homestead where you are. I hope you enjoyed watching. Please consider subscribing and click that link below, and we'll know that you're following the channel. Until next time, have a great day.